We've got 6 viewers. It doesn't say waiting, it says viewers. Okay, let me pop up. Oh shit, there's people in the chat. Oh, we're just over here talking and they're like, hey. Okay, so we are waiting on our, it's back to top chat. Yeah, okay, so y'all, yeah, welcome. Oh God, I messed it up. Okay, so we've got, once we get the participants here, hopefully we'll get that white thing off the screen. For some reason, my video still doesn't match my OBS. I need to find a new streaming software because my OBS and my system. I can email. There's, oh, what did I just do? Oh, that's cool. Hey, I don't know, but you can see all my hair, most of my hair. Oh shit, I'm gonna, I also have like 17 things. Let me check and see where. Oh wait, that's you. Because I was talking to Ant. Mr. Banister is finishing up something, and then will connect to us because it is 10:03 a.m. in beautiful downtown Sydney, Australia. Oh, you didn't see what it looked like. It was white with 2 black blocks. Yeah, yeah. I tried that before we connected. Holy shit. Okay. Yep. All right. I see why you were saying, well, I figured it out. I was like, well, I used to do a window capture when I did gaming videos that nobody wanted to see. Amazingly enough, nobody wants to watch a middle-aged woman play obscure video games. And that's the wrong... What the fuck, man? Give me... Okay, there's Zoom. All right, let's try the other one because that looked like... Whoops. Yeah! Oh, that was me screaming. I did. I'm sorry. I'm very excited because we have the window captured and now I'm looking at a black window. So, hey, Aunt, how are you? I don't have the wrong desktop sound on. I have the same desktop sound that worked at the end of the last meeting. I have not changed anything on this machine. I have not live streamed. I have not done anything. It's not me. Well, we can hear each other, but nobody can hear you guys. You're very faint, and we have the same bull crap. Okay, let me. Every week, we're. Yes. Hang on, y'all. I can't really differentiate. I've never looked at this screen before. Okay. Speakers. All I have is pluggable audio. Output level, volume up. Okay. Oh, this could be bad. Okay, y'all start talking. Let's see if anybody says anything. We have approximately a 30-second to, when it's bad, 5-minute drag time, Amp. Malik. You couldn't hear Malik. Uh, oh, I don't know where to send it. They're not in my contacts. I have to have a request. All right, let's check the YouTube chat. This is like just a second. Brain catching up. Okay. Wow. Hang on. This is not, no, I got to get back to the invite. Okay, so participants, Oh, for crying out loud. Where, I'm looking. Oh, there it is. Invite. Copy invitation. Oh, wait. Crap. Copy URL. Okay, Daya and Malik. Fucking fuck. We have to go to full screen. I'm so sorry, y'all. I can't not do it. Okay, and Malik, I sent it to him in Messenger. I just sent him the link to the meeting. We need to work out the invitations and stuff like that. This is new for us, and because Skype was doing just as bad, horrible things to us. So let's take out this and bring back this. How are we doing, guys? Well, that's the video. The window showed up correctly at first, and it went black underneath everything I had up. So now we need to see if the sound is working. It's not just you. Have audio but not seeing any video. Yes, it seems like we can't get everything working at the same time. Okay, here is Lydia. Daya's name is Lydia. So let's let our lovely... Right, and how is the fifth going to work? Is it going to switch and rotate? It should just do a brick, 5 brick, or like 3 and 2. Yeah. Well, I know that there's this thing that says speaker view. Oh God, I hate that. I want gallery. I want us all equal. That's my utopia. We can make Zoom the utopia. Yes, please, ma'am. There we go. Oh, there you are. Seriously, I need to check and see if Action, because I used to use Action to record, and I have no problems recording y'all. It always works. Okay, so let's introduce. One of these things is, okay, well, we're waiting. We're waiting. Um, well, at work, I use GoToMeeting. We had Ring Central. I've had better luck with Skype. Facebook is even worse. Facebook has worse lag. Facebook has worse video. Facebook eats everything. Google and Facebook cannot have video simultaneously. I don't know what it is. So I only use that if I have to. And I had to get a new laptop, and things are not going well, obviously. Okay. Yeah. Yep. I use that at work. That's my favorite. It does, but we can't use it with external customers at work. Oh, hey. I buy my own headsets for work because I have severe tinnitus. And so if it smushes my ears too much, it's worse. So what I figured out finally is I need to not buy noise canceling anything ever again because I didn't understand it was white noise, and white noise makes me go crazy. So yeah, so I got all the nice stuff at work, and people are like, "Hey, fancy." I was like, "I want to be able to hear next week." Okay, we're admitting. I like that I have to admit everybody. That makes me feel very important. I am powerful. Okay, that's yeah, that's true. I'm just gonna post this photo of myself on Instagram while we're waiting. Um, okay, so let's all introduce ourselves because we should really be doing that every week anyway. This week first we'll go first with our special guest, Mr. Ant Banister, and I'm assuming I made an assumption there. Is your pronoun actually he, him, or do you go by they or okay? Okay. Okay, Azzy, will you introduce yourself? Oh, sorry. Hello. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna go crazy. I am gonna go fucking crazy. Okay, so I'm thinking my audio capture should be my pluggable device. Nope, it's using my damn webcam. Oh, Jesus. Jesus H. Okay, anyone besides me? Right, right, right. Every time. Every single time it happens. Yeah. So my audio capture device should be these headphones. Malik can hear, but he's very quiet. They are very quiet. Okay. Dear audio, I hate your guts. Use it is what it is. Okay, how can I get rid of this? What is I need this thing. Okay, I've got it. I've got it. Let me go find that damn audio setting. Okay, we'll put me into, no, that is the wrong audio. And it is all I can do. Same as system. Wait, what was that third option? Speakers. Okay. Well, will y'all speak to make sure you're not actually coming out on my speakers?
Sure, why not?
Fucking shit.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Okay, so that failed. It's the proprietary nature of OBS. It is making me sad. The system default is these guys. It has all worked before. We know this, as every week it works and every week it fails. So I think it's pretty obvious I need to go with a different system. Maybe not open source. Okay, Toth's Temple can hear everyone. Did I get it? Are we still some? Oh, we've got a tonal far off. Yeah. Okay, everyone's loud and clear now. Holy macaroni. Okay, so I apologize to everyone around the world about my sound issues. I'm not sure how to fix it, but I think OBS is not the way to go. I had a friend who was using it on Instagram, and I don't know, I had some Instagram thing I was trying to watch, no sound. Yeah, the desktop audio is completely fucking dead.
That's
Okay. Desktop audio 2 or whatever the fuck that is. There's me. Okay, y'all, somebody talk.
Cat.
Oh.
Hey,
Hey.
Okay, I see.
can you hear me?
Yeah, but the problem is the audience can't hear you.
Let's just talk amongst
Yeah.
ourselves.
I got it.
I mean,
Oh.
I keep saying that.
Okay, somebody heard Azzy. Okay, now they can hear. All right.
Yeah, I can hear it too because I'm
Okay.
getting the echoes now.
So y'all,
Yeah.
I have 2 desktop audios, and apparently the first one doesn't work. The
God, I
second one
hate the
did.
sound of my own voice.
Dea, I'm not real fond of mine. I just kind of try to tune it all out.
Neither of us.
Yeah, yeah. Most people don't like their own voice because it sounds so different
Nope.
in your head.
Yes.
Okay, so our special guest, Ant, would you please introduce yourself? He did a lovely introduction that, of course, almost nobody could hear.
Okay. Apologies to the fellow meeting members who've heard this before. Hi, I'm Ant Banister from Sydney in Australia. I'm from the band Sounds Like Winter, and that is a post-punk gothic project. Also in the band Lunar Module, which is 80s new wave. And I run Mantra Vision Productions, which is like a production umbrella I master for some bands and some Venus Aeon, who have affiliations with you, I believe, now.
Yep, TG's a good friend of ours.
Yeah, TG's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been doing mastering quietly for him and sending songs into his compilations as well. And yeah, he's
Awesome.
He's a great guy. And I work with, I have worked with Orcus Nullify in South Carolina, with Tontu in Finland, and here in Sydney with the band Burnt Souls. And we've just released their debut album that I produced, and that's really exciting. And a quick plug, Sounds Like Winter have a live stream at 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So my friend in South Carolina says that's 6 a.m. there.
Right, it's 10 hours from now, y'all. Wherever you are in the world, it's 10 hours from now, right?
Yeah.
Well,
that's
just under. Okay, yeah, because I always have to look up, I'm like, where's Sydney again? Because there's like 3 time zones in Australia. Well, I mean, I meant time. What time is it? I know where it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got one of the most famous buildings. It had to be the Pyramid of Giza to be more famous than the Opera House, right?
Yeah.
You would hope.
The Opera House is now being run by Gen X people, so the bands that we're getting at the Opera House have been incredible.
Awesome. Fantastic.
It used to be Opera, now it's Peter Hook and the Light and Iggy Pop and you name it. Yeah, it's been really.
Oh man,
good.
I would love to see Iggy Pop.
Me too.
Okay, so everybody else has to introduce yourself just in case. You never know. We might have new people that don't know who all y'alls are. And give your pronoun. Ant's pronoun is he and him. Just so we all know. We're going to go with Azzy. We're Brady Bunching it, I think.
Alphabetical order?
No.
Okay, I'm bad at introductions. I've been trying to film this stupid goddamn video for Cold Transmission for like a week. And all I have to do is say like, hi, I'm Azzy. I'm co-founder of Obscura Undead. I DJ, I do shit. Yay. Pronouns are they, them.
Oh, I'm the next one. So I'm Skullgirdle, aka Michelle. I run the Skullgirdle RIP channel. I do YouTube, and I don't have a bunch of other shit I'm doing. And sometimes I write reviews. Sometimes I interview some bands from around the world that I like. Woohoo! Dea?
Hey, so I'm Dea, she or they. I make some solo music also under Dea Siculus on SoundCloud. My band doesn't have anything up yet, so that's pointless. And otherwise, I wrote a review for Obscura Undead, and I've been on some of these, so quite accomplished.
You wrote a review for those cuties in Georgia.
Yeah, I did. That has nothing to do with how cute they are.
Malik?
Yeah.
I forgot. I'm a she, her, usually, but I don't really care if you call me they, them. I don't give a shit.
So I am Malik. I work with Obscura Undead as a DJ. I'm from Orlando, they, them. Pretty much.
Oh, was I supposed to say where I am? I'm north of Dallas. Dallas is close enough if you're like 10,000 miles away.
That's how I see it with Tampa. I'm
not
very north of it. But...
I don't live in Tampa, but if you go check out the bassist for Kentucky Vampires, he says where the fuck I live in a recent video he did. And I'm just like, God damn it, dude.
I don't know.
yeah.
I just throw it. I just throw it out there. I don't know. Guess because I don't know how to introduce myself any better. So
Oh God, it's weird, isn't it? I mean,
right,
Ant is the only one
it
who has it
is.
down.
Well,
It is.
right. Ant's a pro. The rest of us are like, oh, what?
We're just like scrubs.
Yeah, if I have to go beyond, hey, this is Skullgirdle, I'm lost.
Yeah, I usually just have to do like a very different introduction with my job where I'm talking about other accomplishments that are not really relevant. Well, I guess they are because we're going to be talking about politics, and I do teach world history and
Right,
government.
right.
So,
Yeah.
it is relevant for once.
That's a really great segue, Dea. Thank you. So that's
You're
the topic
welcome.
for this week is we are going to be talking politics. Not really sure where it's going to go or how
Right.
we're going to start it or end it. But
There. Now we have a better picture.
yeah, but we did talk last week about how a lot of people we know happen to be left-leaning, and that if we know anyone who is right-leaning, that ends up being
Right.
a little bit strange and can be very off-putting and make people feel unsafe.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen being in the US, we have a lot of irrational people on the so-called conservative and or liberal side. So it is quite honestly scary here right now, and we're starting to really see some interesting and upsetting things happen because of that heavy polarity.
Right.
So yeah, we're had thought to discuss what it is if we feel that the general mood of the goth subculture, including like goth, death rock, dark wave, all the stuff, is more left leaning rather than. I hesitate to use liberal because it's become very centrist in this country. I don't know about in your country, and if liberal is becoming, I don't know. Usually conservative here is becoming a bad word for a lot of people, but liberal is also becoming a bad word because our politics are ridiculously corrupt.
Yeah, like I hate using that term. Well, for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, here in Australia, unfortunately, the word liberal has been co-opted by the right-wing party. And yeah, so they call themselves the liberals when they're actually what they call liberal freedoms is basically the freedom to exploit whoever they want and everybody into a product, and that corporations can run rampant and uncontrolled.
Like Ayn Rand, kind of that fountainhead type of thing? Like a fountainhead type of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of living that.
It's a lot of people who are anti-authority. Well, you would know better for Australia, but I find in people that I deal with that it does get picked up from a lot of people that might be anti-authoritarian governments or anti-really any regulation, but still skew towards an extremely capitalist and right-wing view of things.
Yeah, and it's really, they've been sold a pup in a way because they don't realize how manipulated they've been. Essentially society has been, to my mind, has been atomized. And now we're a bunch of individuals and we're aspirational, and we're told by television and media that everybody can be rich, that everybody deserves whatever they want. And, and I worked so hard for this, therefore, I want 100% control over it. But there's completely missing the point that every country, and I'm just speaking from my point of view, every country needs a good, strong government to keep things in check, to look after the poor, look after the vulnerable, look after the unemployed, and all of that stuff, like healthcare and all that costs money. And so an ordinary humanist person would be happy to pay tax, because you need to pay tax to have a good functioning country. We're lucky here. We have compulsory voting. Now, a lot of people, small L liberals, will go, "Oh my God, that's taking away my rights." But actually, no, what it's meant is that we have a centrist country, not as left as I'd like, but at the same time, we have a really good social safety net. You know, it's being hacked away by the Liberal government, and we have a really good health system. Everyone gets free healthcare. I haven't paid a cent for my healthcare, and I have type 2 diabetes, and I've had 2 children completely for free, and I've had operations completely for free, and it's unheard of in the rest of the world. But you know, we pay tax happily, and you know, therefore we have the ideal kind of balance of situation. But the whole time, we've got a government that's selling us off to corporations and trying to remove the controls and trying to cut tax and trying to turn us into the mistakes that we're seeing around the rest of the world, and it's quite frightening.
Right, right. Yeah, in our country, having your insurance tied to your job means that to get better insurance, you have to be able to get a better job, which means a job making more money that somebody puts some arbitrary meaning to. And then your insurance is still a high deductible. It's still $10,000 has to be paid into my insurance before anything is supposedly free. And there will always be charges. Always, always, always. There's never not charges. So when I tell people I think we should have universal health care too, apparently, because I'm looking at my hair, universal health care, they're like, well, what are you going to pay for it? And I'm like, yeah, tax me more. That's fine. Tax me more. But because of how things are run in this country, I believe that if we took our money out of how insurance companies are paid, the subsidies hospitals have to have because they can't afford to run, the people who actually are on federal aid healthcare, if we put all that together, it wouldn't cost us more. And we'd be more in an equal standing, because a person going into a hospital, even with cash in their pocket, into a hospital is not going to get as good a care as somebody who has insurance. And I mean, we know that there's rampant racism going on in any one of our government and or social systems here. So, I mean, I'm just like, yeah, we're already paying a 38% effective tax rate, 35% effective tax rate. It would be so little more for those of us who have the money that I say can afford it. I get it. We got bills. The more you make, the more bills you have. But I personally would be willing to have my taxes go up by 2% a year to be able to afford to have universal health care.
And that doesn't have to happen because we have universal health care, and per capita, our health costs are one of the lowest in the world.
Because preventive, you can do real live preventive. You can catch it early.
And also, when you don't have all that corporate corruption and so forth and pork barreling going on, healthcare, the real cost is not really that high. So if you had universal healthcare and you got rid of all that corruption, you actually would be paying less tax and not more. We pay 33%.
I agree. Mm-hmm. And we've had safety nets in the past, but people call them entitlements. And they act like entitlement's a bad word. I'm like, motherfucker, we're paying into that shit. We are entitled to it. As the people, we are entitled to use those services. But the red tape is painful. If you have to go on welfare and you need food stamps and all that, that's pretty much a full-time job to be able to get that. Where are you going to get a regular job if you don't have any time for it because your entire day is taken up with getting the aid you need for you and your kids?
And the sad truth is, a lot of us that have used those services before, like myself included, when I was getting EBT or food stamps, as it used to be called, I was still working. I was working 3 part-time jobs back in New York before I came to Florida, after I was let go from a teaching position that I had there following 2008. So a lot of those services you qualify for them, even though, like myself, I was working 70 to 80 hours a week when I was in New York. Like, I look back at my old memories from Facebook, and it's like, oh, another 16-hour day, but I only have a 12-hour day tomorrow. Like, and that's it again and again. Yeah.
And then you can't afford the healthcare because the costs are exorbitant. And I can tell you, I'm like, why do I not have any money in my savings account? And then the first thing I look for is, have I been shopping too much? Because, you just think, oh, I'm just not saving money. I'm just being really bad with it. And then I count my health care and I realize that I've paid out of pocket over $5,000 in health care. You know, then
Yeah.
there's the incidentals. If you have surgery in this company, country, you are fucked. You are completely fucked because, I mean, you're not going to get aspirin or any of that shit. So you got to buy all this stuff to accommodate. And then it takes so long to get equipment, and it may not be as good of equipment as you need. It's incredibly expensive to get sick here. And right now, we don't have a real estimate on how many people are actually dying from the coronavirus, from the pandemic right now. But there has been evidence that more people are dying at home, a higher percentage of people are dying at home in New York City. Like 10 or 15% more people are dying at home than directly previous to the coronavirus. I'm talking February.
And I mean, there are additional deaths as well because of the lack of income due to it preventing people from going to work. And when I was there, that same situation, I remember an argument I was in with the fire services that had responded to a car crash that I was in, where I was like arguing with them about not putting me in an ambulance and sending me to a hospital because I would not be able to afford it. I was borrowing a relative's car, so I did not even have personal car insurance, and I was not aware that I would be covered under the owner of the car's insurance. I was even more concerned, but someone ran a red light, which thankfully was caught on one of the traffic cams. And I'm sitting there having this whole argument. They wind up calling up a voluntary Jewish EMT service that did everything for free of charge. Yeah, I got very lucky with that. And like my other concern too is like, all right, well, if I'm going to go, let me like take off my leather jacket first, because if they cut it, I don't have a winter coat. Like that was my other big concern. Like me thinking, even though I was conscious, they might cut that off and then I'd just be frozen. Because normally I drove a motorcycle back and forth to work. I only happened to be borrowing a car that day because I needed to get groceries.
Oh, that's
that's a pain on a motorcycle.
Right, but the thing is if we started having protests, people marching, like a major movement to try to get that universal health care, people would show up with their motherfucking AK-15s, AK-47s. I guarantee people will die for that.
Oh, yeah.
Because we had people shot because they asked people to put on masks, and it's happened more than once, so far twice. One fatality, I think, hopefully only one.
Had people shot over that. We had someone waving a gun around at a one of these rallies that they're having in appreciation of nurses that, if I remember the story correctly, flipped over their SUV as they were threatening people. So it's been absolutely insane. And you would also, of course, have the cops showing up in military equipment, like military grade gear, to shut down any protests right now.
A peaceful protest, but more frightening is I saw one with people screaming this far away from the police officer's face. The police officers had no protective anything. They're screaming in their face. They had no masks. And these are people, and they're throwing the flag around. I was like, if you respect the flag so much, why are you wadding it up and throwing it at a cop you supposedly disagree with? That guy's just doing his job. I mean, in this case, this was for real. Instead of being jackbooted thugs like usual, they were just doing their job. So it's the political situation is terrifying. And as a person who is, I would say myself, solidly left, very solidly left. I can't even I could never call myself a liberal anymore. It just doesn't match anymore. I'm just a full-on leftist radical, I guess. Yeah. Non-violent, but don't test me with violence. I'm going to defend myself. But, I wonder, because I don't know very many goths that aren't at least a little bit left of liberal. If that makes sense. Liberal for us, and I know this is very confusing because you're talking about your liberal government, and when we talk about it, we're talking about centrists who are also corporate, pandering slightly less. They don't seem to believe exactly in the trickle-down theory.
Slightly less.
Well, it's what if you'd got Hillary Clinton as your president, it'd be business as usual, just slightly less crazy. We were aware of that.
Yeah. I think our reaction to this would have been a little bit better, though.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. It's definitely the lesser of two evils, without a doubt. I mean, now, basically, the reason Trump seems to be, from our point of view, seems to be conflated with Russia is because he's been speaking to Putin and saying,
yeah.
how to put up an oligarchy.
Yeah.
Which you're essentially getting. You're getting an oligarchy now.
Yeah,
You're getting something very
setting
similar to
himself
what was
up.
in Russia.
He sets himself up daily.
He's a mobster.
Yeah, he should not only have been impeached, he should have been put in jail.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
Yeah, he just shows, I think currently that person being in office is a symptom. It's not the problem. It's the symptom of our situation of politics becoming so polarized and so poisonous. And now we have people who are on the two sides, and we got to figure out how to fix this.
Well, one step I think towards fixing that is the language that we use. I think saying that you're left or right is really actually playing into the hands of the people that you're trying to essentially work against. Mm-hmm. And if everyone changed the language and took their power back and said, well, let's talk about humanist policy rather than left or right. Because essentially, if you look at the extremes, both, they're just as bad as each other, because it all comes down to totalitarianism. So if you meet in the middle, we say, well, let's develop humanist policies and humanist parties, and not be left or right, because we liberals value personal freedom and liberty, whereas the left wing want the government to control everything. So you need to be sitting in the middle somewhere. So you say, well, okay, the ideal is a humanist government, that the individual is important, well-being is important, the basic human needs are important, the need for status, the need for shelter, the need for food, the access to clean water, jobs, self-respect, being able to express yourself however you like. Now, I think actually during our Sounds Like Winter interview with you, Michelle, Skullgirl, sorry, we mentioned that people in the alternative music scenes have an...
the video stopped.
Outsiders.
Yeah, sorry, we lost you for a moment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just heard a bing. My son, am I back again?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I think my son's playing online upstairs. Where did I get to? Oh yeah, so we spoke about when we were interviewed by Skullgirdle as Sounds Like Winter. We mentioned that living in an alternative culture such as goth or alternative music, you get an insight. You're outsiders. Hello. Yeah, you can hear still.
Yeah. Sorry, that was my Facebook. I just closed it.
Okay. Because we take a step back from society, and we're doing our own thing. We have an insight into the way things should be or could be, and so what do? Well, we look after ourselves. We vote with our wallets. We go and vote for the least worst choice in an election. Make sure that we tell our friends to vote. That's all we can really do. And try and be good people and make music, have fun, DJ, I guess.
Right, spread joy. I think the problem we have, one of the problems we have many, obviously. We're a nation in decline. If that's not obvious, I'm like, we're a nation in decline. But the problem is, you're talking about humanist and equal, etc. But we have a ways to go before everyone in this country thinks that every person is, in fact, a human. We have some issues. Yeah. We have issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as a trans person in the South, we are a long way from treating everyone as human. It's absolutely ridiculous. the distance that I have to even travel to see a doctor because I'm denied care locally, that leaves me just absolutely petrified that now, unlike the earlier event where I'm like arguing with people about not putting me in an ambulance, now my fear is that they won't put me in one because I am trans, and sadly they do have that freedom to be prejudiced against me in the services they provide in this country.
But that's against the Hippocratic Oath.
No, it's not.
How is it not against the Hippocratic Oath?
Because the ancient Greek Hippocratic Oath is not the current Hippocratic Oath, which says something more along the lines, if we stand on the shoulders of those that before us, whatever, and that whole do no harm is part of that ancient Greek one.
Yeah.
And frankly, even if it were the Hippocratic Oath, at most it's going to get them removed from practicing medicine, which is not going to matter to me who's dead, nor would my family be able to seek any sort of...
That's not helpful.
Yeah.
That's not helpful at all.
Exactly. So it's, even if I'm wrong about that, because I am not in the medical profession, but that is what I've seen with it, that it would most likely not result in them being disbarred simply for denying that, especially as they're backed right now by the federal government. So it would be very difficult for those agencies to enforce those rules. I'm not saying it's impossible, but again, this is all going to be after I'm either further injured, even more sick, or possibly dead. And whether or not, those that survive me can collect anything from that, great, they can pay to dispose of my body, and hopefully it'll cover that. But
well, and that goes back to what I feel like is one of the basis problems that we have, is everyone being, in fact, a person. Everyone is a person, and that's why at my job I actually put my pronouns on my email. Nobody has said anything yet. I haven't seen anyone else's email, but nobody said anything. I just copied my friend's format, where she works at an art school. But it's kind of for me, I can't do as much because I'm just, some cishet lady. But I'm trying to point out that there is a way to humanize. Does that make sense? We need to humanize. All people are people. People are people. But at this point, we have people who don't see other humans as anything other than something to step on.
Yeah, like I just saw Thoughts Temple's comment about the current ban on transgender people in the military, which was something we had only recently won under the Obama administration, and fucked a lot of people over. I know there are some exceptions for those who are still able to serve that were serving, but there is still a large portion of people who got fucked, as well as those who were denied their benefits that they should have for being veterans. And yeah, it's absolutely abhorrent. It affects so many aspects of people's lives, and I get asked dumb questions like, why did you wait so long to come out? And when I tell them, like, as a public school teacher, I could not be out and teach. Like, that just would not have been deemed acceptable, and that limited the forms of income that was available to me, my ability to when I could transition. It's why my therapist, going back to when I was 17, suggested that I drop out of university, which I was already in, and instead pursue a job as a bartender or in cosmetology, because no white collar job would hire a trans woman. And as horrible as that was, it was very realistic advice at the time. But it was very pessimistic advice as well. It was, And I wasn't looking to teach back then. I was looking to be an archaeologist, because that's a job that this girl dreams of having, and then realizes that I got paid $10 an hour with a college degree to do.
Well, what is the
in New York?
What is the acceptance rate of archaeology with trans women?
That's an awesome question. Generally, there's very little in the field of professional archaeologists. There's some jobs like I had that was about $10 an hour, and frankly, they'll take just about anyone. The other higher level jobs in there would have involved me like doubling down, and instead of getting my master's in education, getting it in archaeology, hoping for one of those better paying jobs, which are almost exclusively professors leading digs run by volunteers or their students, to further their own, professorship or
Yeah.
whatever the proper
Yeah.
term for that would
Yeah,
be.
well, no, it is actually a cutthroat industry. My mother has a degree in anthropology, and it was cutthroat. It was a big deal for a woman of any sort to get anything. So somebody actually said, I can't believe a trans person can legally change their name, but still nothing is done when family
Dead name them in an
family dead name
obituary.
them in their obituary. I'm sorry, I've got
Yeah.
these weird fucking contacts and I can't see shit.
It's
And
all right.
I think that's bullshit. I think you should be required to use someone's
Well,
legal name, especially if they
ultimately,
changed
think
it.
about what an obituary is. It's going to be the person who pays for it that gets to put in
Right.
whatever they want,
Right.
which is fucked up. Like, you would assume it'd be a little more formal and like a notification that this person has passed. I don't want to say legal because like it shows up in a newspaper, but like, yeah, it's
Right. Well,
it's ultimately in the hands of the person.
You'd think they'd want to have the wishes of the deceased fulfilled, but
You don't know
Yeah.
trans people's families.
no, I don't. But they seem to be dicks. I'm sure there are some that are fantastic because they're always and never really aren't good words.
Yeah, I'm on air, so I'll be polite and I'll say my mother is amazing in regards to me being trans, and I'll leave it at that.
Is that true? You meant that?
For my mother, yeah. I mean,
okay.
is there ways she could do? Is there ways she could do better? Sure, but like, you know, all things considered, and as far as family goes, and yeah, I'm fully behind what I said, and left it at just her.
Right.
But,
just making sure.
Yeah, the fact that my parents had an argument that could have gotten a lot worse, could have led to them getting a divorce about whether or not to allow me to continue to live with them when I first came out, while I was still under the legal age, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, do you feel like you found more of a home in the goth world because of the more left-leaning politics? Do you think it makes it not perfect because we know it's not, but a little bit easier for you?
It definitely has been easier, not just for the left-leaning politics, but there does seem to be more people that are likely to be gender non-conforming, even if not trans or anything else, that just do things that would not fall into their stereotypical gender roles. That said, that often gets used as a defense against me insisting that they use my right name and pronouns.
What?
Mostly pronouns, because most don't know my former name, but people that we are friends with have used that as far as like, oh, well, we didn't want to assume anything, and you have to understand there's a lot of gender non-conform. It's like,
just fucking ask. Ask, what's your pronoun? That's kind of just a polite question, and then do your best. If you fuck up, apologize and come back and continue to try to do your best. I fuck that shit up all the time. Constantly.
I mean, I definitely do with they and them, I'll admit it. It's something that I even use for myself and still sometimes fuck up with others.
Right. I try to call people they and them frequently when I talk about them, regardless of who they are. I'm just trying to build the habit, because the average person who identifies as he or him, if you're talking about them to a third person and you say they or them, they're not usually offended. And that way, if I'm trying to build the habit so that I can get it right more often with someone who does prefer they or them. It is a problem for me, just because I find it, having been used so heavily, as an insult.
Yeah, I mean, I personally would find it dehumanizing, but I'm not opposed to using it with people that prefer it. But I do find it inherently,
I have a friend whose child asked to be called it or they. And it took the parents a while. I'd say a year or so later, they are not dead naming this young person. This person is no longer a child. This person is of age. And I apologized the last time I was around all of them at once in a casual setting. Apologized for accidentally dead naming. I was like, wait, I'm so sorry I dead named you. And one of the parents was like, oh, you didn't, blah, 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 blah. The young person in question thanked me. The youngest child, who is she, her, also said, Yeah, you just dead named them. I was like, okay, I can do this. I can because I had just found out recently that there was a name change and non-binary. We'll go with non-binary because, of course, as a teenager, you're still finding out who you are and stuff like that. And I'm just like, just tell me what your gender is. I don't care. It's none of my business. I just want to get your pronoun right.
Yeah, working in a university, at art school, actually, yeah, suddenly exposed to all of that. And my advanced age, of course, it's been hard to adjust. But yeah, I think it's beautiful. I think it's really good.
But you're making the effort, which means it's possible. And here we've made it a dehumanizing, so incredibly political that it's just, it's something people will get into huge arguments about when you try to defend people who aren't there at the time the conversation's happening. So people don't get into discussions with me at my job about politics or feminism, which is also political. So, because I'm going to win.
Yeah. At my job, obviously, it does come up quite a bit more, and it's interesting that there are some people that it stays way more civil and professional, and I have a very good friend there who is, it kind of goes back to the point that Ant was making before of like right and left wing kind of does a disservice here, but she's definitely at very least centrist, I could put it that way. She's in favor of things like not raising the minimum wage, for example, because she'll make the argument, well, then the prices adjust and all this other, and like all that. And I have the counter arguments for it, and it's conversations that we've had, but she's kind of very much set in that ways. And thankfully we can find a lot of room to agree because we do focus on those more human aspects of it, of making sure that, you know, if the minimum wage doesn't raise, which I don't know why that's such a thing she puts her foot down on, when she does agree that people need better healthcare and that they need better services and that they need all these other things and more affordable housing, it's like, well, yeah, I guess we could just lower the price of everything else and then not raise it. But then, like, why are you so set on not raising it?
That's just trickle-down theory. Yeah. That is trickle-down theory. But the thing is the people who are on that income level could do with, when things get more expensive, a little bit less disposable income, because we're actually talking disposable income and happy stuff. Do you really need a $45 black eyeshadow, or can you do the same job? I'm just trying to relate this to goth in case you guys are wondering why I'm using so foo-foo. Or can you do the job with a $12 motherfucking eyeshadow so somebody can actually make, I don't know, a living wage? Oh no, but our minimum wage in Texas is $7.25 an hour, which is fucking ridiculous. Oof. Oh, it's bad. And you have we are a right to work state, which means you can be fired for any reason. Florida too. My job is half our company is in London, and let me tell you something. They have to prove you're screwing up to fire you. There has to be a paper trail, and we are lucky that there has to be a paper trail, because you can be fired for, I don't know, bringing a stinky lunch.
Well, I mean, I know that that's something that Malik knows a lot about. Workers' rights.
Oh, I thought you meant stinky lunches.
No.
Well, that too. I mean, you know.
I can't attest to that, but I know that Malik has a lot to say on workers' rights and just the generally abysmal state that is this country. Like, I felt so lucky when I got hired full-time into my job and they gave me 80 COVID hours in case I get sick.
Oh, that's fantastic that you got that. We just have to be reported. We didn't get that.
You just have to. So I work in local government.
Yeah. I've worked with the protections of government before, but now luckily I have a job that's like, you know, it's similar protections to government, but we didn't get the COVID thing. And I work for a company that's considered to be a good place to work.
I don't want to comment on the workers' right, because pretty much what I heard so far, it's that the whole thing about the left, it's horribly defined. let us say. So no, I'm not gonna say that. I guess everybody has to read about it by their on their own.
In what way do you mean it's
Um,
horribly defined?
and horribly defined. None of I haven't seen any real definition of what a left is. I disagree with all of the left um, definition that we just discussed. Because to start with, liberals are not leftist at all.
Right.
Leftists do not want to have a government that controls everything. That is wrong. That's what Stalin did, and it was completely wrong, and it was proven wrong before he did it by Marx. So that's something out of the question. And also, oh yeah, you comment on something about being far left or something, or like being on the left side of the spectrum politically speaking. I suggest you to read Rosa Luxemburg, Reform or Revolution. I suggest you to read that book. It's very good. Other than that, I was gonna say that Puerto Rico has the same minimum wage, and it's very disgusting when they as Texas. That's what I mean. As Texas.
No, it's terrible.
It is terrible. It is. Also, when they discussed this at the Senate in Puerto Rico, it was so disgusting to watch, to just see those people discussing these matters. The guy, one of the representative asked the guy who is opposing to raise the minimum wage, would you live with $7.25 an hour? He never answered. He just made a whole bunch of excuses. He said, no, but you know that people now do it. People work under the table and stuff, like they get it from somewhere else and stuff like that. I'm like,
no, they don't.
Not answering, because it's about you, and it's not about the people, what the people do, what people have to do about it.
Right.
It's about you. Would you live with that? Of course not. Of course not, because you're so great at doing whatever is it that you do, and you're getting all the money,
Right.
And it's you're never gonna live with that with $7.25 at all. And then he said something along like, if I have to, then I have to cut a lot of my benefits and a lot of my commodities. I'm like, you almost answered, bro. You almost answered.
I hate that is the base assumption.
Awful.
But
it was awful.
Do you think that somebody who has never lived in a way where they had to choose where they paid the electric bill or the water bill or had gas to get to work, who literally could not afford to eat every single day, and had to figure out which days of the week were going to be the day they ate and the day they didn't, do you think a person like that is qualified to stand up and talk for the working person in the lowest wages in our economy? I personally, I don't. If you've never lived like that, you don't understand it.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, no. I don't think it's easy to understand like that. I'm sorry, I got distracted by the comments on the chat.
No, they're part of
sorry about that.
Malik,
sorry about that.
Malik, they're part of the discussion. The people in the comments are part of this. It's fine.
I wanna comment on I worked doing income verification for rental assistance program in the county I live in, and the assumptions of the people who worked in the department were absolutely disgusting. That this person is lying. They have 3 kids. How are they feeding them? They must be getting money under the table somewhere. Um,
Right.
the assumptions of just like, oh, they have $50 in here and it's clearly marked like a Walmart refund or something like that. And they're just like, well, how could they have afforded something $50 in the first place? Why are they spending their money on like a haircut?
Oh my God.
Like,
You know what? It's
the
not your fucking
assumptions.
business.
Exactly.
Right,
Like,
right.
and I think that that's part of the reason why they didn't like me, because I told them like every single time they would start like gossiping about people's like income status when all we were supposed to do was run the numbers. I told them that they were being biased and unfair and what they were doing was
Right.
unethical.
I agree.
But that's the assumption, is that, you know, like if you can't live on $7.25 an hour, you're lazy.
Just get a better job. You know, it's
Get
funny.
more jobs.
I was talking to somebody I work with, and they were talking about how small their parents' house is. And they don't know how they could live in there. There's 2 people, how they could live in. Their house was 50 square feet larger than mine. And here's the difference in perspective. I think because I have a house that I am a wealthy person. And because I have this, it may be modest, but it's my fucking house. And I'm just like, but that's wealth. And back in the days when I was making, I've had jobs that were below minimum wage before. I've had, you know, all that stuff I described. I was like, okay, I have these vitamins my dad sent me. Hope it gets me through the month. But as living like that, it is inconceivable to me for somebody to dismiss what I consider a palace, pretty much, because I have this thing I can afford. I think, I don't know what it is. I don't know why I think that. I think I'm wealthy as fuck. And I don't. Yeah, I just, the 725 being able to make a living and feed your kids is bullshit.
It is. I lived with a woman once who she said to me once, I think poor people don't eat very well because they're just uneducated. And I looked at her and I said, no, poor people don't eat well because they're poor.
Because all they can afford is fucking rice and beans.
And she started going on, and she was from an upper middle class family in Berkeley, right?
Oh my
and
God.
She
White
starts going on.
privilege.
Oh yeah, like through and through.
Oh my God. That's just. Oh,
I once watched her cry because they didn't have recycling in the middle of Papua New Guinea. But we went back and forth and had this argument where she said, well, when I was living on a stipend as an undergrad, you know, I still ate well, but I cut back on what I ate, and, you know, I lost weight, but I was still able to eat well. And I looked at her and I said, you're not, you know, like a single mother or a single parent of 3 kids who has to decide, how am I going to spend the $10 that I have for food today to feed my kids? Do I go and I buy like 2 avocados and like a bag of oranges? Or do I go to McDonald's and get like 100 fucking chicken nuggets or some shit like that? Like,
canned ravioli, y'all. That was one of my treats. A can of ravioli, and you know that's garbage, heartburn food. But a can of ravioli was when I would buy one on payday. When I was in school. And when you're in college, you have more resources, by the way. You have these weird resources. You learn some very resourceful techniques. But just the fact that you're in college says privilege. So I knew that. I knew at the time. I was broke after college too, but in college I learned some techniques that got me through, you know. When you go to a fast food restaurant, take as many sugar packets as fit in that fucking bag, man. You know, just
find out which churches have like free dinners and whose spiel you have to listen to get food.
Right. And when you buy your bag of rice and your bunch of green onions, because that is the only vegetation you can afford, and your 10-pack of ramen to get you through the next month, then you eat every sample they have in the store.
Oh yeah, like free sample day is like the shit. We used to do that when I was a kid because I grew up in extreme poverty. Like we went to the food bank, and like my dad would some nights we didn't have enough food. He would open up a can of like SpaghettiOs or chop suey, wouldn't even bother heating it, would leave it on the table and walk out of the room, and my brothers and I would have to fight over who got to eat that night.
Oh God, who's fastest? That's
yep.
We didn't have that. I grew up in that middle class life, but my dad grew up on a very poor ass farm in the Depression. So whatever you didn't eat on your plate, he ate. It did not matter. If there was any shred of anything on that chicken, he ate gristle, he ate all that stuff. And he reused everything. He still reuses every fucking thing. You do not throw out tinfoil after one use. You reuse that shit. And it's because it's precious. It's dear when you just don't have anything. And he still will say that he was lucky because he lived on a farm and they actually had food.
Yeah. Well, I was going to comment about that too, is that it's also a very different experience depending where you are, because if you do happen to have at least some land, or you're not in the middle of one of these food deserts where it becomes so difficult to access fresh food or anything that's of nutritional value, it makes it that much stronger. That much more difficult.
Right.
You at least have some other options, and you get people that speak very ignorantly of, well, maybe they should keep a garden, or maybe they should do things, and it's like they're not in a place where you can keep it. Like when I was in New York, where the hell were we gonna grow? Yeah, it's it would be absolutely absurd to suggest something like that there. Right. And it is for a lot of the country, and it is for a lot of people, because if you're working 2 or 3 jobs, how much time do you have to spend on gardening or on a decent sized plot that you could grow stuff to help supplement your low income? And we do get a lot of ignorance there.
But poor people who are living in fear of losing their job all the time, barely make enough money to subsist, they don't take time off, they do whatever they have to work. They will kill themselves for the job. And it is a beautiful profit for corporate fucking America. Keeping people poor equals money for the wealthy people who don't need shit. How many more fucking billions does Jeff Bezos need, or whatever the fuck his name is? Amazon dude. I mean, really. How much more money does a billionaire fucking need? What would you need? 5 gold bathtubs? What the fuck, man? I don't get it.
Which is another really important point as well, because the raises or anything that we could do to help those who are making minimum wage or less than minimum wage, as some jobs don't even offer that, they expect you'll get tipped, etc. That really there are people that have that much money that they can afford to spare it, so that other people at least have a place that they can live, that can at least feed themselves, even if not a large family, but hopefully other people as well. Like we're not living in a time where I can just go, well, shit, things are really hard to find a home here in Tampa and everything else. I'm just going to go out to some land that belongs to a, other group that we're exploiting and just settle there and start my own farm. Like that's not an option anymore. It's not even Depression era New York City where people went into Central Park and built their own homes. They got forced out by police.
Right. They get flattened. They get flattened, and the people move, and then that gets flattened.
And it happens so much quicker now than it ever used to. You used to have a lot of communities that were like that were at least temporarily for a few years would subsist as a area for people that were impoverished and that were making their own housing or squatting in places. And it was just sort of understood that you let them be, even if they obviously would shut them down. But now you have signs up that say, if you see a tent, report it. Like, fuck that. If I see someone sleeping in a tent on the side of the road, I'm going to see if they, I'm not going to be reporting it to the police.
Fucking make a space for them. Make a space for them. And if you don't like the way it looks, make a space for them and put a shield between whatever precious thing you have. But, one of the things I love about, and this is going to sound insane, about communities that are homeless or extremely poor is a lot of times people are really looking out for each other. They're really looking out for each other. And I honestly, I wish that we would all look out for each other like that. It's kind of like right now we're seeing the worst. I mean, we're seeing people shoot someone because they're asked to wear a mask because that person doesn't want to get a potentially, it's not just deadly. I mean, y'all, it could take 15 years to recover from the lung damage of the COVID. You could have a stroke and permanently lose brain stuff. It's bad. This is a pretty bad fucking disease. But in the light of people thinking that it's their liberty, my body, my choice, is anyone else offended to a level of rage on that one? Yeah. But when you see that, to see people that do take care of each other, because I have a neighborhood thing here and people are taking care of each other, delivering meals to those who can't shop, donating to stuff. I mean, I sent money to my neighborhood for donations for people to be able to eat and stuff like that because I'm in like a lower middle class neighborhood, I guess. I guess what you I hate to put those kind of class things on there. It's just like I don't know, maybe that's the income level. But it's good. We're kind of seeing some of the best of people and we have a chance. Right now we have that chance to actually care for each other. To carry this on because going back to normal should not happen. It's bullshit. We shouldn't have
Mm.
people who are killing themselves with 3 jobs and can't afford to get sick. I can't afford to get sick. And I supposedly have that insurance and money to be able to be sick, which is disgusting when you think I have money to be able to be sick. Think about that statement. I'm feeling safer than usual because I have enough money to get sick. I have enough money to go to the doctor.
It's crazy, and you've got a situation where in this country and the UK and in the US, where the politicians are trying to rush everybody back to work
Oh yeah.
because, you know, here, for instance, I mean, that's they don't want to spend any more money, you know, and the safety net that we have in place is a thing called JobKeeper, and they're supposedly paying employers to keep people in a job while they can't work. The hoops the employer has to jump through to get to that money is ridiculous. So it's actually just all smoke and mirrors.
Right.
And
Same.
yeah, and so and then we look around the world and we see the human cost in deaths. They just, you know, I can't believe it.
Well,
So like you say, it's up to us, you know, at a community level to you know, use the time to bring ourselves closer together and do the right thing by each other.
right.
Because there's no leadership at the top, and they're rushing to get back to that broken system that was there before.
Well, I think it's human nature to care for each other. I think we are highly social creatures, and it is in human nature to actually care for each other, undoctored with our narcissistic society, just kind of as we would normally be, let's say, in the wild. I think that it is in our nature to care for each other. I think that in our country, I don't know if yours is the same, and the competition is sick. It's very sick, very, very poisonous. And I would have to say, I know it permeates everything, but I think the white people, we got to step off, man. We got to fucking step the hell off and think that, I don't know, other people are, I can't harp on this enough, people. The idea that people have to beg for the same rights that I have because they're different than me is abhorrent. It's aberrant to me. I can't even it's such a dystopian society. It's so dystopian.
We have areas here that are exactly like that, and generally the trend is towards that direction. It has been. Luckily, the area I live in is, you know, is more left leaning and, you know, community orientated and, you know, alternative. And you know, we're even polite to each other on the roads. We let each other in on the roads. You know, but you leave this area, and if you're caught in the wrong lane, someone will run you into another car. It's that dog mentality, and yeah.
Well, do you find people in the goth culture, goth subculture where you are, to have similar politics to yourself?
Not 100%, no. Because it's interesting, the Australian goth scene. You've got the goths, which are trad goths, which came from the punk scene, and then you've got the industrial goths that came from the metal scene. And we find that there seems to be more right-wing leaning people in the industrial scene, so to speak. There seems to be, you know,
same.
just a few more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you definitely get it in that, and you do get it a bit with those that might have come from more of a hardcore punk, as that tends to, at least here, harbor a lot of right-wing people.
You mean
that
American skinhead hardcore? That punk? Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it definitely is more in the industrial, like you mentioned, but it's not unheard of in either. And got to be careful about the types of people that are in those spaces.
Yeah. Well, we
Right.
find that on the forums and stuff, we just filter people out, and they soon show themselves. But in general, it is a healthy scene, but there still tends to be that privilege going on, where your worthiness is measured by how much you can afford to spend on the right clothing and the right look, etc.
Yeah.
It's a bit of that still.
Or the
But-
time that you can spend on the right look.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
assumed money and time. Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
thing is even if you're wearing a fucking pair of like khaki shorts and a pink t-shirt, you still showed up. You still showed up. In my opinion, you showed up. And I just can't judge somebody based on, I mean, unless they're wearing like an SS uniform. I would judge the fuck out of you for that. But I'm just not gonna judge somebody. I have no right to judge somebody. We are all just trying to live our lives, man. But yeah, that is exactly the same. And we have clubs that dress up more and dress up less. I guess you could say we have one that people call it the fashion show place, and I just want the music to be good.
On the last Obscura Undead, I think it was Stonewall. I forgot. Anyway, the point is that someone showed up with a uniform, like like World War II uniform, and I almost went to them to kick them out. I almost went almost there to punch him in the face, and Edie said to me, "No. That's Patricia's husband. He's totally cool." And when I see again the uniform, it wasn't like the SS uniform, but it looked kind of like
Yep.
So I was like,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it was a very good looking uniform. That's the hard part. It was a really beautiful design.
Yeah, you're right. It was very elegant.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Very
other
fine
than that,
detail.
what it represents for me, it's like I'll fucking punch you in the face. I'll fucking punch you in the face. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Not so
That's
punching.
kind of my reaction to most military uniforms, period, because it still promotes, generally speaking, fascist ideology. And this idea of,
Or
obviously
imperialistic.
exactly.
Yeah.
And obviously, some are certainly comparatively less worse than others, but that's still not a great place to be at.
Yeah, the Red Army.
Yeah.
Even if the
well,
uniform
that's
is attractive.
so with the Red Army, because it's a good segue for it, because I wanted to bring it up before. That's what I was trying to say even in the chat before about when we do throw terms like left or right around, I know there is more complex ways of looking at it, but even just using that basic grid system where you have up and down, left and right, typically up being authoritative, down being more closer to anarchism, you find a lot of people that do use terms like liberal that tend to be in the anarcho-capitalist side of things, where they don't want government interference in their big greedy corporations and want that dystopian future, as opposed to, say, an authoritative capitalism where you get elements of fascism, etc. You could have your left and authoritative, those totalitarian states, and then you get those that might be bottom center, like a syndicalist, or bottom left, like an anarcho-communist. Wow, almost slipped there. Like myself, or there is a lot of different terms for it that float around, and regionally they do vary in meaning. But
I know they're Trotskyists. They're the communists that love tankies. The tankies, they love Stalins and stuff like that. I understand that. I understand that. But what I meant to say is that whenever you look at a political spectrum, you have to look at it for the program that the party has.
Yeah.
So if the party has a program and you understand what they are there for, or what they represent, then you should follow if you're agreed or something like that. But other than that, just don't. I mean, I don't support the Communist Party in USA. I don't think it's. I mean, I don't think it's that. And and that's the like that is the political spectrum that I'm in. But I don't support it. Why is that? Because when you see the program, it doesn't represent what I understand that Marxism is.
Yeah.
So that is me. I mean, the same happened to a Democrat or a Republican or a Green Party, let us say. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, so you have to read the program of the party and understand it.
Yeah.
And then,
And I'm definitely in complete agreement with that, because just because people might even align with you politically, they might not be good people at the end of the day, regardless of it.
Correct.
Mentioning before anarcho-communism, which I do happen to support, I have a friend who founded or co-founded a free farm, and I won't state where. And when she came out as trans, got treated extremely shittily. And I don't want to, get too much into her story, but it had nothing to do with the political philosophy or anything else, and had to do with the people that wound up working their way in there who were not good people. And some of it came from their own altruism and trying to reach out and help people and being there for people with substance abuse that then invited shittier people that took advantage of that help. And a lot of it was just, people that had personal grudges, that it wasn't even because of race or trans or cis or anything else, but personal grudges that made it a shitty system. That even though on paper it might sound like this, if you're into that idyllic little space where you could have, not just the farm that they had there, but other jobs that they had and responsibilities that they all shared and paid into together, and that might have sounded perfect to you, but then people are still going to be people at the end of the day.
Right.
And it changes with time, because you're not the same person you were, years ago. So
right, you're not supposed to be. You're supposed to be growing constantly and changing, and I don't know, it's this weird thing called thinking.
Yeah. Hopefully improving.
Yeah. Pretty weird.
I know. Yeah. Wait, what was that? No, that's wrong.
The unfortunate thing is that politics tends to head towards tribalism, and
yes, heavily.
Now, they've discovered a phenomenon recently when they did some exit polls on voters, and they found that voters were not aware of the policies of the person they're voting for at all. When they went to the voting booth, they just looked at the candidate and said to themselves, is that person part of my tribe? They vote for the person they feel is part of their tribe, regardless of their policies.
Right.
And quite often, they would change their own personal politics afterwards to match that they got into power.
That is what happening to the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
You have like
three
different candidates, and they all support different things. They can't decide, because the program of the party, it's open to anything. They don't even know what they're like. Whatever, whatever gets us votes.
Right. They're probably they're fucking it up again.
Cut you off. Go ahead.
I mean, sadly, that's part of any system like the United States, where it's largely two parties, because while you might want to have more ideological purity within the party, you wind up causing a disservice to yourself by not letting other people in that might be slightly different or even very different, that would at least stand with you against someone else, and you wind up getting a lot of people making compromises that are not in their best interests. But I think what you said about people wanting to vote for someone in their tribe. I see it with my own students. On paper, I could read through some policies, they'll all agree with it and everything else. And then when you give them like a practical thing, like, would you vote for Trump in the re-election? And they'll say yes, because they're pretty much programmed to by their parents and their communities and everything else. Like, but you said you didn't want X, Y, and Z and that you were in favor of these policies. They're like, yeah, but, and start giving their excuses to counter the thoughts that they had just a moment ago.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing to watch people just kind of line up along party lines, and we're just swallowing this garbage from our politicians over and over again that is more and more divisive. And I mean, if you just talk to people, people are people. They're not going to be this huge evil person or this all perfect person. We're just people. We all fuck shit up. We all do some shit right. And ultimately, the two-party system, I think, is ridiculous. It makes me sick. I wish we had, like, a lot of parties. I wish at least 3. But a third-party person can't run. And that is why somebody like Bernie Sanders has to run under the Democratic Party. Because there's no way he could survive as a third party. All he would do was make absolute certain that the GOP won. And so, of course, he's trying not to do that. So he's running under the Democratic Party. And, of course, it causes more rifts because they're acting like spoiled little babies about their little agenda, et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately what seems to happen is nobody gives a shit about the actual people of this country.
Right.
I mean, it's okay with our leaders. How many hidden tapes are coming out or hidden recordings are coming out that show our politicians knowing how high the death rate can possibly be by opening the country earlier, and they're doing it anyway? They know. There's a recording of Pence. There's a recording of our governor and our lieutenant governor in Texas, both who know and don't give a fucking shit. They don't give a shit about the, actual people that they supposedly represent. They work for us.
You just gotta feed the machine blood. Everything will work out in the end.
Right, and ultimately, it just works its way up. So we'll start with those people who are currently considered essential workers, but will be thrown away like garbage next week when everything's fine.
Yeah, they're sacrificial workers.
Oh, hell yeah, they are. Hell yeah, they are, with the amount of safety equipment that they're not given. Yep. And the self-righteousness of shooting someone for asking you to, follow the motherfucking law. What is that? I can't understand somebody protesting, not wanting to wear a little mask. I mean, it's not that big a deal. They're kind of cool looking. I mean, if you get the right one. I can't help it if you get a shitty one. But thinking that it's okay for you to kill someone for asking you to be inconvenienced for half an hour. They should die because you are inconvenienced for half an hour. Those people should be strung up by their toes. Obviously not the people who are being shot.
But Michelle, it's my body, my choice.
I'm flying out to Florida to pummel you. That is a flashpoint of anger for me. Because,
when I first saw it, I was just like, what the shit is this?
That is an instant unfriend, baby. But I just cleared out I cleared out my YouTube. And some people who want to be able to spew their vinegar and piss will be like, well, you just want it to be an echo chamber in your Facebook. I'm like, fuck yeah, I do. That's my Facebook. That's where I go to have intercourse with people that I want to talk to and that I like. This isn't where I go to have shit posting all over the place. I want to see pictures of puppies and kitties, and I want to see people who also agree with me. In the real world, I can be attacked for my views everywhere, all over the place. I mean, as goths were attacked. That's why I don't get right-wing goths, because being attacked for how you look and the music that you like all the time, why would you turn around and do it to other people? Anyway. But, that's I'm like, yeah, fuck you. Facebook, that's it. Yeah. I'm just going to, I unfriended half my Facebook friends. It was half.
Well, it was very popular back on Long Island and parts of New York City of I'm socially liberal, but financially conservative. That type of right-wing.
Fuck those assholes. Fuck that. You don't get one without the other. If your money is ever more important than another person receiving proper health care or food, then you are not a financial conservative and a social liberal. You are a
And if you're
fucking
not willing to
conservative.
put the fucking money into the programs that are going to
Right,
provide
right.
those things, then what the fuck's the point of saying, well, yeah, I'm in
And-
favor, so long as I don't have to pay anything. Like, sorry,
Conservative
not,
is supposed It's conservative is supposed to mean moving slowly, being cautious, all your research first, where liberal means, well, let's do this thing first and then we'll do the research later. The ideals, I don't remember where I saw this article, I was like, oh, that makes sense. So at this point, conservative and liberal aren't even proper
See,
terms
whereas I
for what
thought
we're
liberal
seeing.
was more of a reference to literally like the liberal movement of the 1700s, like the Enlightenment thinkers.
You're going to have to expand on that just a little bit for the rest of us.
Sure. So liberal coming about from people like Voltaire and John Locke and those that you would have learned about. Yeah. And frankly, like a lot of people still have that kind of mentality of, you know, I might not agree with what you have to say, but I'll fight to the death for, you know, your right to say it. But then using that to include things like hate speech and other things where it's like, oh, so you'll fight to protect someone's right to say things that could result in someone getting beat the shit out of and killed as well.
Right. So the rest of us should be able to fight for the right to shut your fat ass up about your stupid bullshit that's going to hurt somebody severely in the future.
I just love those types of arguments because going back to that trans-military ban, like, well, fuck, I can't fight for it anyway. I'm not allowed. So if the country is in a state where it needs the fucking defense, fuck off. You know, you wouldn't let my people join anyway, so why the fuck?
That's so salty and I love it.
Yeah, you'll hide in a cave. That's okay. You'll hide in a cave and I'll be the person who sneaks
I'm sure
food.
people will hate me for it, but we could literally be being invaded. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Wasn't there a ban in place? Yeah, come on in.
I understand that people would hate you for that, but they don't have the right. I know that people feel entitled, but they don't really have the right. If they're not going to treat you as a person, they don't get to bitch when you get upset about it.
Yeah, and
to put it in the nicest terms I can think of.
There are other things I could do for the defense, and frankly, I'm old enough now that I'm out of a draft range anyway, so that's not a concern. Or at least not unless it was extremely dire straits, because those ages change.
Unless we had an apocalypse.
Yeah. So, you know, but by the same token, it's absolutely ridiculous to expect that kind of loyalty out of people who are being marginalized. And I know there's a lot of people that have it way worse than I do, so I'm not going to fucking go there because I still have a good amount of privilege. You know, I am still a white woman, even if it is a white trans woman, so. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Your murder rate is higher than mine as a white cishet.
Right, but you know, compared to say an African American trans woman, it's
highest
a
murder
lot better. Yeah,
highest murder rate in the country, I think.
The average lifespan is same for what, you know, the rest of ours would have been during the Dark Ages.
Yes. So, yep. Yeah. We need to protect everyone in this country. Everyone deserves a chance to, I don't know, live and flourish. Yeah. And being sold the idea that every person can get rich, you just have to work harder, doesn't really make sense when you're working 16 hours a day at 2 shit jobs, neither of which offer you any benefit whatsoever, and can threaten to fire you if you need to have an afternoon off to go to the doctor.
And it's so obvious that the pay does not equate to the level of work and effort that's put into it, because I get into that argument all the time, or used to with my brother, because of his 6-figure salary as an IT worker with a 4-year degree that he had, whereas as a public school teacher with a master's degree, which is mandatory in New York City, not even making half as much. About a third as much. And you go, oh, well, you have more vacation time. He had 6 weeks paid vacation. So granted, not as much as,
it's not as
much as, no, his was.
Oh, sorry. I thought that we were talking about yours. It's like, it's not paid.
No, he had on top of all of that, the 6 weeks paid vacation. Mine is a little longer than 6 weeks, but it's, clearly not paid. That's reflected in the salary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had people try to argue me down, and I just look at them. I'm like, I'm on the side of the teacher, because I worked at a school district in technology, so I've seen like bottom special ed aides. You want to talk about someone who's getting bent over, all the way up through what do they call them, superintendent. So I've seen what happens all the way along, and I personally do not think that the amount of money on your paycheck makes you a better person. I feel like that is based on how you treat others. How you treat others, what happens in an emergency when you're there, that is what makes a better person. The amount of money you make, I'm a different person because I'm older and wiser. God, I hope. Gods, many gods. And because I've been through life experience, I'm not a better person because I make more money than I did when I was 27.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Yeah.
make me a better person. The amount of money that goes into my bank, that can't make you a better person. That
Yeah.
it's like being okay, in my philosophy, being born with a real pretty symmetrical face, that doesn't make you beautiful. That makes you lucky, but beauty has to come from the inside. And being a good person comes from the inside. And someone can be wealthy as fuck and be a good
Yeah.
person. And someone can be poor as fuck and be a shitbag.
Yeah, people have looked at me like I have multiple heads for having one, dating multiple people at a time, but dating someone who is homeless and also dating someone who has no income. And they're like, well, how could you put up with that in a partner? Like they don't even have a home. And I'm just like,
oh my God. Oh my
yeah,
God.
so
oh my God. I can't
like
even, yeah.
they're a fucking amazing person and I love them and that's why we're going out. And you know, if it had got to the point that we wound up living together, then obviously they would have one. But you know, there was in that particular instance a distance issue and the fact they had to be mobile in order to survive.
Right.
You know,
right. And you know what? That's your fucking business. That's your business. That is not somebody else's business. And if things are working between you and the partners, I don't care if you have 50 spouses. I give no shits. Unless I'm one of them, then I give a shit. Otherwise, it's not my business. But as long as it's working for you and all parties involved, I'm all about consensual. If it's consensual and people are of an age of majority, then I just don't care. I don't have the time and capacity to give a shit about everybody else's moral, I guess, compass, because morals are all like created ideals anyway, or they are natural ideals. They're kind of a societal ideal that somebody tells you to live by, and we don't necessarily question it, but we should be.
Yeah.
Well, I think morals, you need to educate yourself, you know, with morals. Because if you look at Lord of the Flies, I mean, children left to their own devices, they're little bastards, you know.
Yeah, but those are a bunch of privileged little white kids.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. So, of course, it was like kid eat kid.
Yeah.
That's a terrifying story.
You get that whether they're left to their own devices or whether they're able to form more powerful structures like government. You have those shitty people that will abuse their power, whether they're one person in a stateless society or whether they're amongst like-minded people in a society with a state. You just kind of hope that you build in those preventative measures that would prevent, that was redundant, that would stop someone that is of that personality or that horrible, that they would be able to exercise that power as widely as they would. So.
Right. And that, to me, the idea that you have to be told your morals by a religious institution is laughable. If you can't come up with the idea that you shouldn't really fucking kill people, if you could possibly avoid it without somebody saying some supposedly old dude with a white beard said no, or you're going down to the burning place, then you have a problem. You have your own problem. And I got the issues as a person who is of the not exactly religious type. I do my best to be a good person. It has absolutely no fucking thing to do with standard cultural norm morals. I find them to be bullshit. All right, Michelle shuts down the room. Woo!
Hey, Michelle, we were talking about the role of women in politics earlier today.
Were we? Oh my God.
Yeah, we were.
Right, yeah. I actually posted something on my Facebook today, and my comment for it was the idea that a woman in our country, and I assume most of the world, that needs to be noticed by a man to be considered to have any kind of power, and the abject terror of a woman who is willing to claim that power without the necessity of a man giving it to her makes me sick. Comments? Questions? Natural law. Wait a minute. What's this natural law thing?
Oh, living in a state of nature, or like natural laws being those that seem the most common sense or practical,
Oh,
like not
right,
killing
right,
anyone, not stealing things. I know those are
right.
also religious,
Not driving while so
commandments. Yeah,
inebriated you're going to kill people.
right.
Yeah. Those are,
Yeah.
to me, they're common sense, and I don't think if you feel like somebody has to have a religion, but also religions. So many religions want to subjugate somebody.
Yeah. And even with
Somebody.
those natural laws too, I've been looking into a lot lately the history of policing, because frankly, there didn't used to be police forces, especially not one that was paid for and full time by the government.
Right.
And a lot of countries had that until extremely recently. It was up
Right.
to people in the community to gather together and say, no, this shit is unacceptable.
Well,
It
how many?
became
How long? How long? Like the last 100 years?
Um, Definitely, I would say 200 for it really starting to become formalized, and even then,
Mm-hmm.
like more 100 for it being that widespread. I
Right.
mean, think about early New York City, the fact that fire companies were called companies because they were companies you paid to come and put out a fire. They were not publicly owned institutions. They were not even like in ancient Rome where firemen were enslaved people who were slaves of the state that put out fires to protect the city. So yeah, police forces were very similar. You had people like the thief taker general in London and other positions where it was essentially a bounty Wild West system where law enforcement was extremely informal until the last 200 years, depending where you were, depending what they could afford. The private police forces, be it Pinkertons or anything else, the fact of combining police and detective services. That's why you had so many private eyes,
Mm-hmm.
just going back to like, noir films and everything else, because not a lot of, even in the 30s, Depression era, not a lot of cities could have that great of a detective service, just like now we see these shows like CSI, but most towns don't have any forensics really capable of handling that level of shit.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah, so it came down to more just people being able to call out one another on their shit if they got caught as it happens. And, it was mob justice, and obviously that was not great for a lot of people because we get a lot of racist assholes.
Right.
Yeah, like recently.
Yeah, yep, which came up in the
Right.
chat before as well. So I'm not stating that it's better before anyone takes that toll, but it's been something I've been looking into, and I forgot what we were discussing that made me think of that.
Police, fire, and police. It's interesting. I would have thought that the very first public service would be fire.
I think it was, to be honest, because even at, you know what, I'd have to double check on that.
Well, a lot of small towns still have volunteer fire services, and all the town can afford to pay for is, for the most part, equipment. And the fire people.
It's also when we say, it's also when we say things like first, you really have to be like specific into places and time periods.
Right. Well, because and I assume this is the same. It's like the rural world, like farmlands and all that stuff, is totally different from the urban world. You have completely different lifestyles. You have completely different issues to deal with because they don't have to worry about the same kind of crowding that. Well, I'm suburban, so I'm like somewhere in the weird fucking middle. But they don't have to worry about the same kind of crowding that people in a city have to worry about.
Yeah. So it's why cities traditionally have always been, to go back to those terms, more leftist or anything else, because they know that you have to take care of one another and provide things for the masses. Because of how unwieldable it becomes. I mean, even ancient Rome used to have free bread for its population, that you could go and get food just for being a Roman citizen living in Rome. That's not something they would have had in the countryside, and it's not something you'll find now in a lot of civilized areas.
Well, in the countryside, your neighbor would have just brought it to you. You would have had that kind of symbiotic relationship. But it's kind of like we're seeing now, my health is your health is my health, it's our health. My health is your, what did I say? My health is your health, and your health is our health. So we're living that right now, and well, we're failing. We're failing pretty hard. Hopefully, we'll fail a little bit less going forward, but doesn't seem like it. But yeah, in the rural, people just help each other. They help each other. They put up with a little bit more weird shit, but if somebody really fucks up, they'll get run out of town. Like if everybody thinks you murdered somebody, there's gonna be people with torches and shovels to come kick your ass. But if you're the weirdo fucking his horse on the porch every night at 5 o'clock, yes, that's a real story. Then people are gonna be like, yeah, he's out fucking his horse at 5 o'clock. You can tell what time it is by the time he's on the porch fucking his horse, who doesn't seem to mind.
So
Yeah.
goth music should be political.
Well, a lot of it already is political.
Yeah,
I mean, it gets back to what is goth.
exactly.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
political music, y'all, is why I asked Ant to be with us this evening. I mean, I think, is it Land of the Just? There's several. There's several on Sticks and Stones and like Everything You Do. So they do a lot of heavily political music, and death rock, I think, especially is highly political. Just my personal opinion.
It should be, yes, and it is. At least for the Spanish death rock that I listen to, it is very political, and also like some of the English death rock that I have come across, they are very political too, in some sense. So yes, for me, I think it should be very political, and I don't know. that's my take on goth music. Yes, so,
I feel like we have a lot of little sappy love songs throughout the ages. People love that shit too.
Yeah.
We have a lot of I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm in love, let's bang. We have all that stuff.
I think people ignore how much the Sisters of Mercy wrote about politics.
I think they do. Yeah.
Oh my God. Do you know that people sometimes don't know the reference?
Oh, like Marx and Engels?
They don't know. They just don't know what it is. And, you know, I'm not going to explain to anybody. They just have to read it, I guess.
I mean, or they could pay me to do it. I am a teacher.
That's of the exact thing we're talking about.
Yep.
I mean, Killing Joke, Specimens, Sisters of Mercy, Susie and the Banshees, like, were a lot of very political music that people don't really give credit to. They're just like, oh yeah, this is a jam.
So I don't think it has to be political, but I think politics has so much to offer in terms of inspiration for really good music. And
also, Elix Sex Fiend too.
Well, but also social issues become a political issue when we don't take care of them and we don't help each other. So even things that may just seem like a social issue in a song are kind of a political issue in the song as well, frequently.
We live in a society.
Right, and I think that, I think particularly, I don't know, just in my opinion, death rock really hits on some of that stuff more, but I mean... There's a
it's got that punk influence,
Yeah, there's a shitload of goth music that hits it that just goes political as fuck. I think, I personally like it, but I have to go and look at the lyrics and look shit up.
But I want to know from Ant's perspective, definitely. What do you think about Ant?
Death rock and politics?
No. Our guests.
Goth and
politics and music, yeah. Well, from a personal perspective, I write political lyrics because for me, I mean, the thing with politics now, we all have a sense of disempowerment, and we've been actively disempowered. I mean, I was a union rep for 10 years in the postal service, and I watched my power diminish over the 10 years I was there and then I ended up leaving the job because they weren't paying me enough because they cut the wages so hard that I wasn't earning enough to pay my mortgage. But I write political because it's just, for me, it's cathartic. It's things that are making me angry. I've always felt that when I felt like a song was preaching at me, I rejected it. So it's a fine line between where music becomes preachy and where it
Right.
becomes
Right.
educational, I suppose, or whether it's just telling a personal story. For me, it's just, all I'm doing is reflecting what I see and the things that frustrate me. That's essentially it.
Right. Right. For preachy, personally, I think that London After Midnight is very preachy. But I'm trying to
You're
remember
doing
what
them
it's.
a disservice.
Right, from Sticks and Stones, there's this song you wrote about being a postman, and I was like, Impossible Dream? Is it Impossible Dream?
Yeah. Yeah.
In itself, because of what you're writing and what you're thinking at the time, it actually has that little bit of political bent, even though it's a very personal song.
Mm. Yeah.
Because you're just kind of fucking stuck. And I don't know. It's just kind of like, I always call it the proletariat, even though I know that's kind of a misnomer. But I always think of it that way. The proletariat's getting fucked over again. It's just kind of how my brain works. But yeah, I just think there's so much politics in the middle of the vampires and the literature and the I'm so sad. Let's talk about some graves. There's political shit thrown in, even if sometimes it's like one little tiny bit. But yeah, I've been listening to the Bellwether Syndicate, and that's some pretty heavy politics in there.
We can also call it the working class.
Yeah.
In general, we don't have to call it the proletariat. That's more of a Marxist scientific approach.
Right.
So,
I just use that.
I mean, I do like it myself, but yeah, it can be alienating for some people because even with terms like working class, middle class, and then people try to get very specific with lower middle class, and like it really becomes so hard to describe it when so much of us are only steps away from being in the same position of those who are the worst off financially, and then those with the wealth literally never have to worry.
Right. Even as somebody who is solidly middle class, I'm not very many paychecks away from living on the street. I'm like a paycheck, maybe a paycheck and a half from having to go live in a tent myself. And I remind myself of that all the time. And I guess maybe I don't need to be reminded to help people, but it's good to have had different kinds of experiences. I have not had a billionaire's experience yet, nor do I care to have one, I guess. I'm happy to have a bath. It doesn't need to be, I don't know, full of rose petals and slaves.
Well, that's it. I'm in a very similar position. I arrived in this city, owing somebody $75 and then lived in a single room for a year while I kind of put myself through the cheapest audio engineering class I could find for $25 a week. And I was hungry 2 times a day, two times a week, 2 days of the week. There wasn't any food. So, I appreciate where I am now, and because it took me a long time to get where I am. So, it's all about the spectrum of experience that you've had in your life, and I think it's very valuable.
And luck. Luck.
Yeah.
It's pure fucking luck on some of that shit. I just fell into some of the stuff that got me to where I am now. It's taken 25 years to get here, but some of it is pure dumb luck, knowing the right person at the right time. And if somebody has the same exact experience and doesn't know somebody at the right time, they're going to be making their $7.25 an hour and being incredibly underappreciated.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I can't stress that enough because I wound up being fortunate enough to have gotten my master's degree, got a teaching job my first year out of it, which bizarrely enough, I only went back for my master's because I could not find a job after having my bachelor's that paid more than $10 an hour in New York City. That doesn't fly.
That makes no sense.
So that's why I went back to school. And people are like, "Oh, why did you go for teaching?" I was like, I couldn't find work, so I just took out more loans and doubled down. But my point was, I was able to work until just after the 2008 financial crisis, and was let go simply as a policy of, last hired, first fired, not looking at talent or skills or anything else in terms of evaluation. Purely, the year that I was hired was right before a hiring freeze, and then they started letting people go. And I had certainly not the experience, but the degrees, the intelligence, the skills that were there to start off teaching, and I couldn't find work for about 5 years after before I finally moved to Florida. Or sorry, I couldn't find teaching work. As I mentioned before, I found 3 or 4 jobs at a time and kept myself plenty busy, but that was going and opening at retail stores, substituting all day, going and closing at stores, and doing construction work when I could, because that's what I did to help offset costs while I was in college. I don't want to say pay my way through college, because I still owe 60 or 70 grand now, all these years later. But to at least offset living expenses incurred at the time.
Right. Yeah, I had a weird place. I'm trying to remember exactly when it was after I graduated college. I worked in the fashion industry for a few years. And when I left that to go to the computer industry, because I worked for a tiny company, 80, 90 hours a week will burn your ass right out. So, and making a very low wage while doing it. So I decided to change careers, and luckily I had a friend that helped me. But I had this weird place in between where I was a telephone psychic for a while, y'all. That's hilarious. And that's what I did while I was in this weird place where I was way overqualified for the jobs that were open, and didn't have enough experience to get the other jobs that were open. So I was in this weird flux for, I don't even remember how long that happened. And luckily, very luckily, I had friends who helped me out during that time, because I would have been hanging out in a tent city and eating garbage. I mean, it was that dire. So it's weird to be in a place, especially when you have the education that everybody seems to think you need. I personally don't think you need it. I think that we're overvaluing, just like Daya needs to have a master's degree.
Not well, I did in New York, not in Florida.
Okay. Not that your master's degree isn't worthwhile, and not that you aren't fucking brilliant, but there is a point at which we're expecting an educational level that somebody can never pay back their fucking loans.
Yeah. My master's degree is a waste of paper.
Well, for fashion, I work in the IT. I work in IT software and stuff like that. So luckily, I'm in the exact industry for right now. But yeah, when I was in fashion, you don't make the money. You're not going to make the money back for how much you spent on school. Are you kidding? School is so expensive in this country, and people end their school career with like $70,000 in debt. 10 years later, with a perfect payment schedule, they are $68,500 in debt. And that is ridiculous. We are creating a society of dumbasses that are highly controllable.
That's actually why I work in local government, though, is because of the debt forgiveness program. That probably actually won't ever come to fruition, but
I hope
they do promise you after 10 years it will. But anyone who's ever applied, like, it's a very low acceptance rate despite meeting all of the qualifications.
Yeah. I was lucky and got out of school without any debt, but it took me 7 years to do it. And I had to work 2 jobs to get through it. And there were semesters with 1 class because that's all I could afford. There was a lot of make do with things like, because I have a degree in art, I have a BFA. There's a lot of it's very expensive, so there were a lot of things that I couldn't quite afford when I needed them, and I just kind of had to panic for the first 4 weeks of every semester. But I somehow made it out of school without any student loans because I didn't qualify. It was a long time. I'm old. It was a long time ago, and there was a tax situation with a parent. So I qualified for nothing, and that's the only reason I don't have loans. But our student loan, we want people to be educated. We tell them every day, you have to have a college degree.
Yeah.
That is political bullshit. You have to have a college degree. I tell people, I'm like, be a plumber, be a fucking electrician. Holy shit, I wish I'd thought of that when I was younger. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was something I was trying to avoid given my experiences there and the incredibly homophobic and transphobic world that is a lot of our manual labor. Not to say there aren't a lot of brave people making fucking spaces for themselves. And I admitted before, education was certainly transphobic and homophobic as well.
Heavily.
But yeah, it's shit. I don't know. it's weird. We do value the education in terms of degrees. We don't value education in terms of skills and just other things we can do that might not come through a college situation.
Well, funny thing, when I first started in IT, my friend helped me defraud people. I knew shit about computers. I had to write it down. I couldn't do it on a computer, but I had a degree, even if it was a BFA. Now, there are certain companies that look for BFAs, but generally I'm completely disregarded, but I have 20-something years of experience in this field. But it took over 20 years of experience in this field to make up for the supposed lack in a computer science degree that is half out of date by the time you get it. So it's interesting to me that we've stopped valuing manual labor to the point that our average plumber in this country is like 58 years old. Those people are extremely important to me. I have paid plumbers a shitload of money, and I talk to people coming to work in my house. I know it's kind of the dues they have to pay to come to my house, but I have not found any intelligence deficit, because I knew it wouldn't be there, from someone who has not completed college. I just don't think college is for everybody, and I think that it's a political bullshit at this point to keep people in debt and to keep people enslaved to a monetary system that we cannot really support except for the very richest people. And also that kind of education is not, it devalues other careers that are just as valuable. Every person is valuable. The person who fucking picks up your trash from the office is just as valuable as a CEO to me. They both have the job they do.
They're more valuable to me.
Well, yeah, it depends on the CEO. Yeah. But they both have a job to do, and both of their jobs function in a way that they keep their thing going, so you can keep your thing going, so this person can keep their thing going, and we all function as one gigantic organism. And my bestie explained to me her severe love of Star Trek, whatever Captain Picard was in. Is it
Next
Enterprise?
Generation?
Next Generation.
I was going to say,
it's the Utopian Society.
Why would I know?
You did.
Yeah, right. I speak nerd, but I can't make it through a show. Anyway, but the Utopian Society, that people choose their vocation that they're going to be best at and will make them happy, because income is not the thing you're looking for. That is not what brings value. And I wish I liked that show more. I love Patrick Stewart a lot because, he is an amazing human being. But that idea of that kind of a utopian society where really all they're doing is valuing everybody who does their job.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing. So, I think about it, and I used to tell people this when I worked at a school district. If the teachers had to spend their time, instead of teaching, cleaning up everything, then is that well, I know you do.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of our custodial staff does, but we all clean.
Your custodial staff gets cut, so you don't have enough.
Yeah, that's actually currently a problem at the school I'm at, and I can only imagine how it is right now as they try to disinfect everything and make it habitable.
I've seen a service take over for a custodian that had worked at a school for 20 years and had been part of the staff and part of the family, and all of a sudden they're forced to work in a company that's a service. Yep. And oh my God, every time I went to that school, I loved that woman. She was just fucking amazing. But I just don't think that any job is above any other job or below any other job. And that being said, I kind of want my doctor to have a God complex so they know that they have the confidence to fix stuff. But yeah, and I know it's utopian. I get that. But we have a chance right now, y'all. We seriously have a chance to fix at least something. I feel like we should take that chance. And I feel that some of the acceptance, and we can get better, in the goth, we'll call it world subculture. This is called subculture shock. We should be using that word. I think that we are more accepting and we can do better. But I'd like to see society as a greater whole do better.
Here, sister.
Oh, you're so nice. Okay, so I think we're at the end of, I believe it's Azzy's bedtime.
Yeah, it's a solid bedtime.
It is.
Well, I'm an hour earlier than y'all. Ant is in the middle of his day.
Yeah, it's lunchtime for me.
Okay, I was like, I'm not even sure what time it is. It says 9:05. I'm like, are you 16 hours ahead? So, yeah, it's 1 o'clock.
12:05.
12:05. Okay,
It's
15 hours.
12:05. Yeah, it's winter, coming on to winter, so I think daylight saving has changed things by an hour.
Daylight savings, another political bullshit move. Daylight savings is the most useless fucking piece of crap.
Yeah.
Oh, we like it because it lets us take the greyhound for a walk.
Okay, that's
When
fair. Timmy.
Yeah, Timmy. Yeah.
Aunt has a very, very cute miniature greyhound.
No, he's actually huge.
Yes, he looks smaller in your photos.
Massive. I'll see if I can go and get him. I'll bring him in.
But yeah, Aunt has a very cute dog that has, I don't know if Timmy has a Facebook page, but Timmy definitely has a presence. So that's pretty cool. Well, thank you, Daya, for bringing your expertise. It's always good, and Malik for bringing a different point of view. I mean, if you could send me a Facebook message with the book you're recommending, that would be helpful. Because that
I will.
Yeah, the
Okay,
Rosa
thank you.
Luxemburg one.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, I'm reading
I love
fiction
her.
now, so
Same. Yeah, and Gramsci and Trotsky, but anyway.
I like to
No
learn new
Kropotkin?
things.
Lost.
That's cool. Well, yeah,
What?
learning new things is
Kropotkin
good.
as well.
Did you say
Conquest
Mrs.
of
I
Bread?
couldn't hear you.
Oh, Kropotkin, Conquest of Bread, Mutual Aid.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It's because I'm muting my microphone, so
Oh,
you get all the noise. That's why
Got
it
it.
gets. I have a delay every time I have to reply.
Yeah, are you on the
Alright.
phone?
Shut up.
Yeah, you're on the phone.
That's fine. As long, you know what, I'm all about you showed up. I found that I'm generally just happy people show up. Because we've seen what happens with my sound every single time, and I have
Every single time.
all sorts of shit happening. I have like 5 cameras attached, y'all, and they all work every time perfectly. But no, my sound, it has to be a struggle. I should do one set of headphones for this and one set for that, but really I should just uninstall Skype because I think that's what's fucking me over. But I'll be looking for something beyond OBS, y'all. I'll check and see if my Action will do all this because I used Action for recording and it was super easy, beautifully done. Everything looked fantastic. I just haven't used it in a while. I just have to find a 1,000-year-old email to install it.
Well, if you find something, let me know because it would help me. It would help a friend of mine who was
Mouse
sending me
recommends
many and
slobs.
Slobs?
Yeah, it's streamlined OBS.
Okay.
What is
Slobs.
SLOBS? Like I'm a slob in pajama pants?
Yes.
Like streamlined OBS?
Yes.
Oh, of course. Well,
Yeah, when she said that part was what I caught on because I wasn't sure if it was slobs or slobs.
No, well, I have a habit of when I make a video, I'm usually wearing pajama pants, but I don't change my pants until right before I leave the house when I go out anyway, unless I'm wearing a dress. If I'm going to wear a skirt, I'm in pajama pants or just leggings until like 5 minutes before I leave. So, it doesn't really matter.
So, I believe there was talk of a puppy.
What?
Yeah, where's Timmy?
Skinny puppy?
Timmy, here he comes. Come on.
Oh, Aunt Timmy.
Yeah.
Timmy.
Yeah, okay, Timmy's way bigger than I thought.
Oh.
Timmy, come here. Come on.
One of mine is a whiner too.
Oh dear. Let's see. There he is. Hey.
Is he defensively behind a chair?
He is because he doesn't like attention.
Is Timmy wearing a t-shirt?
Yeah.
He's wearing a stripy t-shirt.
I'm so jealous. I can't dress up any of my dogs.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've tried.
Yeah, I can't even get my parrot in a harness so I can take him on walks.
Yeah, I can barely get one of my dogs into a harness so I can take him on a walk, and now he's blind, so he freaks out the entire time and he can't figure out what's happening. I've tried dressing them all, and it ranges from pig pen to standing still in shame, drooling to peeing himself.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
He gets cold.
It's my
He
cross to
gets
bear.
cold. He's wearing a t-shirt because he's cold. He's very thin-skinned.
I have chihuahuas, so you'd think that they would like to be dressed up, but I have chihuahuas that have thick double coats. I don't, two of them. And the other one doesn't care about how cold it gets. He just pees if you put a jacket on him.
That's very odd. I'm glad I don't do that.
Chihuahuas are neurotic, y'all. Everybody knows that chihuahuas are neurotic, especially in packs. It fits. We're all neurotic around here. Okay, well, I think we need to wrap it up because we generally try to go until just 9 o'clock my time, which is 10 and noon tonight.
Oh, one thing we could do is announce the topic for next week.
Oh, I get to know in advance.
What is it?
Yeah, So the topic for next week is death rock.
That's right.
Yes.
With a very special guest. Again, from a time zone very far away from us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I should announce it yet or maybe closer to the date. Because...
Are we confirmed? Are we real life confirmed?
Yes, we're confirmed.
The way you said yes
forget.
makes me hesitate.
So long as he doesn't forget.
Well,
okay.
We have to remind him. Do I need to send this person a friend request too and then be falsely friendly? No, I'm kidding. I don't do that.
How about you send them a friend request and be real friendly?
Well, that's what I do.
Oh, okay, that might be better.
Yeah, we'll do that. I think you can go ahead and announce because we protect our guests like fire and spears, pretty much. We haven't needed to tonight. But...
Our tentative guest for next week is Jacques Saff, the singer and bassist for Helsinki-based death rock band Virgin in Veil.
That was my guess. I was gonna guess that it was him. He's a lovely guy. In fact, I've had some great long chats with him.
Oh, fantastic! Fantastic.
Aw, that's great. I like talking to him.
And it feeds
over Messenger.
It feeds into my agenda that our musicians are attainable at this time. In this particular, if you want to call it a wave, although if you're in Latin America, there is no wave; it's all one wave. But if you want to call it a wave, we have very attainable artists right now, and I say talk to them. Give it a shot. If they're a dick, move on. It's not about you. I have found more kind than not. They're just people.
Go figure.
And who was that? Jacques from?
Virgin in Veil.
And he's got a dark wave band called
Wild Roses of Winter with his wife Susie.
Oh, I love that.
You know what? I did not put that together. Wild Roses of Winter. What is it with you folks with your dark wave and your death rock? What's with that?
I really wanted to form a dark wave band as well. Like I was aching for it, but I don't have the time.
That's fair. That's fair because your name is on quite a few things with mixing, mastering, etc., and working with other people.
Yeah. This year I burnt out at the end of last year. This year I'm DJing at clubs a lot less. I've said no to some production jobs. We've got to get album 3 for Sounds Like Winter out, and we've got to get album blah blah for Lunar Module out. I've got to do some writing, some serious songwriting, and I'm doing it and getting there. So thankfully, I gave up my radio show on Mixcloud. I just gave up so much because
Well, if y'all didn't realize, Mr. Banister is a sound engineer, and if you listen to Sounds Like Winter, you can kind of tell there's some pretty heavy talent on the mixing and mastering.
Thank you so much for joining us, by the way. I really it was a delight.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm impressed and encouraged by the level of intelligence you all displayed, and humbled as well.
Same.
Thank you so much for being with us. It was very nice.
And really last minute too.
Right. Yeah, you are the best. And thank you for having an open mind speaking to, well, the dreaded Americans which in this case includes Malik.
I have nothing but compassion for the Americans. And look, and Puerto Rico, the way you're treated after the storms, my God, my heart goes out to Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
Seriously.
it was really bad.
Yeah. What can I say?
There are still problems there, and the resilience was amazing when I was there.
That guy was just showing them his true colors, and some of them they still don't get it. I don't understand. Sometimes people.
It's easier to believe the lie than it is to think for yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you for being open-minded, and because I know that the world sees us frequently as USA, USA, which I have never uttered in a crowd. I assume the rest of y'all have not as well.
Is 5 a crowd? Because you just did it now.
You know, Dea, I may have to change my mind about you, but yeah.
Yeah, it happens often. I do as well.
Well, I've never uttered that. I've heard it at many a family function because I come from a family of white supremacists. So,
same.
Yeah, great.
Same Trumpites. Neither of my sisters and myself. I'm sure my parents are disappointed. Okay, well, I don't want to close out like a skull girdle thing, but thank you again to everybody, and we're going to shut down the meeting. We're going to stop the stream, and we're going to go back to our lives, and some of us have to go potty. Just saying.
That sounds great.
Yes.
Put a jacket on.
I'm just barely making it. All right, so until next week, y'all, Death Rock!
Yes.